Kevin Martin here, your UT admissions guide. In this workshop, I've recreated and reproduced with permission a real UT Austin student application, and I want to walk you through what an admissions reviewer might be thinking as they're reading and trying to assess which admission score to assign this applicant. We'll look at the essays and the resume and discuss the results at the end. I hope you enjoy this video. Welcome to this Spring Transfer UT Austin application workshop where I have reproduced and recreated with permission and anonymized a real student application who applied for liberal arts transfer for the spring 2020 semester. And I'm going to walk you through what an admissions reviewer is thinking as they are reading and perceiving this application and trying to assess which score to give them. And so we'll walk through their biographical information and academics. We'll move on to the resume and we will take a look at the essays, and I will also at the end offer my a few more thoughts and what their potential personal achievement index score is. And if at any point you want to pause this video to read the essays a little bit closer, I invite you to do so. You can also find a similar blog post at texadmissions.com/blog where I have reproduced this kind of same content but in text form. So the first thing your admissions reviewer will look at is the student's age. And so for transfer applicants, it's not always the case that they have graduated high school recently and then maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years in the future decided to transfer. A big chunk of the applicant pool for transfers are going to be non-traditional students. Those could be mid-career professionals. There's many veterans, for example. You have single parents who have, or perhaps second-degree seekers. And so it seems like this student might be the case of kind of a recent high school graduate. They're from a well-off family that's college educated, so there's not any signs of adversity or other things that stick out in the biographical section. They're applying for the College of Liberal Arts. First choice major is geography. And for the most part with transfer applications, especially for spring, they're only going to look at your first choice major. Remember, spring only admits for liberal arts, natural sciences, education, and social work. This is an Austin Community College student, and attending ACC does not give you or confer any advantage in the transfer admissions process. It's just a myth and misconception that simply won't go away. Every year, people from cities outside of Austin are saying, "Oh, should I move to Austin so I can go to ACC and help my UT chances?" And it just simply doesn't work like that. And I don't know why that myth continues to persist. Nevertheless, whatever college or university you go to, UT doesn't care if it's a 2-year or 4-year institution. It doesn't matter if you go to Lone Star or the local community college in your county. It's what you've done in your courses, the courses that you've taken, and also your grade trajectory over time. So students that might have, let's say, 60 hours or so, they will look to see what the grade trend is and pay a little closer attention to the more recent courses taken. This student, they only had, I think, 21 hours before they applied. And so admissions reviewers needed to wait in order to make their decision after receiving their fall grades. And so prior to the fall, they had made all A's, but they'd made 1 C, so that brought their GPA down. It was around a 3.7. After receiving their grades for the fall, they made 1 B. So their GPA before fall 2019 and after 2019 is almost the same, around a 3.7. And so if you have less than 24 hours, that fall semester can be very critical. It also gives you an opportunity to make up or improve your GPA. Whereas if you have 30 or 40 hours already completed by the transfer October 1st deadline or March 1st for fall applicants, admissions reviewers are going to make the decision prior to receiving those semester grades for which you're currently enrolled. However, with this student, it did help their GPA a little bit because they did make higher than their original GPA. And so since they're applying to liberal arts, the actual courses that a student takes are less important than if you're applying for natural sciences or engineering, or some programs that have strict prerequisites like economics or business. But for like liberal arts, education, social work, communications, undergraduate studies, the courses that you take are less important than for STEM. It's more like take the classes and try your best to make A's, and if you can take classes relevant to your first choice major, that would also help as well. Let's take a look at the resume. And so this is fairly common for transfer applicants that they're part-time or full-time workers while they're also going to school. And so it's definitely a different look than first-time freshman applicants who tend to have a lot of the same extracurricular activities, National Honor Society, band,
different clubs and organizations, competitions. But transfers, there's not really a typical transfer applicant. And so for that reason, the resume is slightly less important than it is for the essays. And so the bulk of the transfer work is going to take place on the essays. And that goes with the admissions review process as well. But yeah, they have kind of a part-time job working in childcare. They are working at a Pilates studio. They did join a club that's related to their first choice majors. They joined the geology club. They're in a couple different mentorship organizations, and they'd volunteered a little bit. And so nothing here that indicates that they have really kind of investigated geography in any significant way. But again, that isn't as important as it is in the first time freshman process. It's really on the weight of the essays. So let's take a look at their SAA statement of purpose. So every SAA needs to do a few things. You need to discuss where you were at, finishing high school. What were you considering your choices after graduation? Where you eventually enrolled? What advantages, resources you've taken advantage of while you've been at your current university? Any potential downsides or ways that your growth has been inhibited by your current school? You also need to discuss, of course, why you want to apply to UT Austin, why you're choosing your first choice major. You can also discuss if you're changing your major as well. For example, going from, say, biology to history, then that would be worth a conversation. So the SAA is a little bit more strict in terms of different, kind of boxes that you need to check. And this one does a really nice job of checking many of those boxes. So we know that they moved to Austin and choosing Austin Community College over a number. You can even sometimes mention your specific four-year universities you were considering if you want to. I've anonymized their hometown that they were from. But yeah, kind of talking about that transition and reasons for wanting to enroll close to home or far away from home is also relevant material to discuss in your SAA. Sharing a little bit about their parents' life. There's a nice paragraph here in the middle about kind of childhood memories about going to the Drag and going to a UT game. They also live at the Callaway House, which is primarily with current UT students, so they talk about that experience a little bit. I think if you are moving away from home, it can be advantageous to talk about what that experience looks like, where you have to be more independent and disciplined, practicing good time management exercises. Each day is an opportunity to learn, meet new people, and explore the city. And so they talk about a few of the things that they like to do for fun in Austin. And that's another nice way to develop your essay a little bit more. It's good to focus on kind of the positives first. I'm trying to make the most of my opportunities. Talking about some relevant courses if you've taken something that has helped inform your future academic ambitions. I'm active in our chapter's geology club, which I joined this semester to further my interest in the natural world. It's an opportunity to make friends, explore issues, and meet with area professionals. And then they conclude with a really nice statement about identifying different resources at UT Austin. A well-known meteorologist. They're talking about a research opportunity with GIS. And so yeah, it's just a really solid essay from start to finish. I would say this is fairly typical for the types of SAAs that admissions reviewers are going to see. There's not much fluff here. It's just kind of sticking to the facts and trying to provide as much information as possible about their academic growth and journey. So let's take a look at their SAE. SAE asks for students to discuss an issue of importance. This can be something as local as your family or as broad as kind of a global issue like climate change, for example, is a common topic. And here they've kind of done a really nice blend. So I've chosen this file to show how you can talk about a specific issue within your family. In this case, they have twin brothers, and one of their brothers, Caden, lives with severe ADHD, was also diagnosed with depression and anxiety, talking about the kind of impact that had on the family life. Obviously, it was really tough. They would have probably been a junior or senior in high school when their parents experienced a divorce. That also provides a little bit of such special circumstances that reviewers wouldn't have necessarily seen here, where the Applied Texas just asks if kind of the highest level of education attained. But if you have experienced a divorce in your family, that's something that is certainly relevant to reviewers and worth noting, especially if there's already something going on, like kind of raising 3 kids, one of which kind of has some special needs. They talk about some of the kind of trials and efforts that trying to make this transition, and even just the strain of having a kind of a brother that is kind of to their own admission, makes my mom feel helpless when he screams and belittles her. But then I think what's really cool in the second half of this essay, where they kind of spin it into a larger and broader conversation that truly makes this a very powerful SAE. The stigma around mental illness is a global issue that affects hundreds of millions of people, regardless of age, race, religion, geography, or income. They cite a few kind of well-established statistics from reputable sources, talking about how over about a quarter of students live with anxiety. Depression is a leading disability in the United States. My family's lucky that Caden's diagnosis is normal. So again, they're kind of switching gears between the kind of local case and how it fits into broader conversations about mental health. They provide some more stats from the CDC, which is again a very reputable source. My brother receives stares and whispers at school and when we go out. I don't necessarily blame them, but they don't realize the depths of these issues and how their actions affect him. Caden recognizes that he's a normal child with common cognitive disabilities. And so there is some nuance and maturity here where they're kind of trying to put themselves in their brother's shoes, seeing how others in the world are perceiving him. And, there is some kind of a thoughtful conversation about how it will affect their future studies and also some of the beliefs that they've formed. And so it talks about, again, in the end, why this is a particular issue of importance for them specifically. I think sometimes students will make the error of choosing an SAE that isn't obviously important to them, or it's hard to understand their personal relationship to the topic. And so it's okay to talk about, kind of very broad things, whatever issue you choose, but it can often be most effective if you're choosing something that is significant in your personal life, that you've had experience with in your community, maybe part of a volunteering project or some aspect of your research or a part-time job, but kind of throughout there has a really nice balance between these larger conversations of mental illness in the United States with their own experiences in their family. Almost every family, friend group, classroom, or sports team knows someone or are themselves living with mental illness. I try to give the others the benefit of the doubt because you can't always see a person struggle. So again, a thoughtful essay, just like SAA from start to finish. So like I say, they've demonstrated clear reasons why they enrolled at ACC, how they've made the most of their opportunities, and how UT will help them explore their interests, particularly by joining the geology club. Obviously, they didn't have to do that, so it's good that they're at least making an effort to introducing themselves to their future major. And like I've mentioned, although they have kind of few experiences related to their proposed major, their grades and essays suggest that they will make the most of their time at UT. I think this is a fairly textbook example of a 4 on the Personal Achievement Index. I think most reviewers, probably 3/4 of the time, are going to reward this student with a 4. I don't think there's, there isn't enough here to elevate it to a 5 and certainly not a 6. 5s and 6s are often going to have kind of a deep and demonstrated interest with their proposed major. Starting hopefully from, in high school through to the current day. 5s and 6s also will have state level or perhaps national or international level achievements. And so I don't think that there's enough here to warrant a 5 or 6, but I think it's also a really solid example of a 4. It would be pretty hard to give this essay applicant a 3. Although I think that there are some reviewers who might score this application a 3. I think their likely score was a 4. They did gain admission to the College of Liberal Arts for their first choice major of geography. Spring 2020 admission for transferring was also a little bit less competitive than in previous years. It was like the first time ever for any transfer pool that I saw at least, more than a handful of students with less than a 3.5 GPA gaining admission. Generally speaking, if you have less than a 3.5, you're probably not going to get into UT Austin through the transfer process. And so I think that given that they had, pretty good grades, they just had a 1B and 1C, really solid essays, I think that they were, kind of comfortably gained admission to UT Austin. And so it also just goes to show that if you don't have some super extensive resume, you're not a straight A student, you can certainly find success in the UT external transfer process.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find more helpful information at texadmissions.com/blog. And in the information section of this video, I provide links to a free online email consultation if you're interested in potentially working together, and links to my book, Your Ticket to the 40 Acres, and my premium course, Getting into Texas Universities. Thanks, and I hope to see you again soon.